Morning, everyone. Happy New Year. Welcome to the Wealthy Retailer Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Holman. Here we are recording for the first week of the year, January 7th. I've got my main man, Rob Lawlisher from Road 55. He's gathered a ton of good headlines to kick us off. Morning, Rob. How you doing?
Very good. Very good. Happy New Year to you, Dan.
Yeah, same to you. Same to you.
Ready to go.
Yeah. Listen, I got up this morning.
Oh, let's hear it.
I got up this morning and I sat down, I did my normal routine. I get logged on and I'm thinking, hey, I got to check my 50-50 tickets from the hockey game last night. $17 million at a 50-50 on the 50-50. And so I'm like, I got to check my tickets. And I look, it's an A ticket. I've got an A ticket. I get a little bit excited. Then it's A5. I'm like, whoa, shit, I got A5. Okay, this is good. And I said to Marlene, hey, Marlene, come and look at this.
I'm telling Rob to pound sand inside of 5 minutes here.
Yeah. I was only off by about 4 million numbers.
That's pretty good. I bought a ticket for most of the games, and I was an immediate loser every single time. I had a B ticket, and they always started with an A.
It's funny. It's the 200 tickets, but this is, we were chatting earlier. This is really the sign of how technology or the proof of how technology can change, revenue or retail or anything. We used to go to a hockey game, a World Junior game, they always had decent 50-50 numbers. Here in Alberta, perhaps not in other places. Alberta is the king of 50-50 draws.
It's a weird phenomenon.
It's crazy. And even these games that, as they started, they were, 6,000, 9,000, 28,000, 113,000, 1.7 million. 3.5 million unclaimed.
It's like, don't even look anymore. Don't
look
even
at your
look
ticket.
at your old ticket.
I'm never going to win.
It's gone.
I'll spend my 200. But, it really is, you remember going to these games, having to be in person.
Yep.
Stand in line.
Yep.
Scratch out your bills and buy a paper ticket.
Off the big roll, the guy would have to
off the roll,
peel off the tickets, and he'd have to split them and his half and hand you your half.
And isn't it funny how technology has changed now? I no longer have to shop in person. I can do it online if I so choose, and I still get to support that great cause. And yes, hey, we're always doing this for the chance to win, but we spend money at 50-50 inherently because we think we're doing good. We justify spending 20, 30, 50, $100 on a 50-50 ticket because half the money goes to charity.
Yep.
So, what a
but now just that ease of transaction, right? And we were talking about, in this particular sense, a little too easy in some ways, but
perhaps
think with your omni-channel retailer hat on, and it's awesome.
But this was about them identifying a better way to connect with their customer. And this is what every single retailer needs to think about. Get out of the four-wall box that you're in and think, hey, wait a minute. How do I reach out to somebody? How do I engage them? How do I create an opportunity for engagement that's outside my normal rhythm?
Yeah.
Outside my norm, and think, hey, maybe it's worth the risk. And this is a great example, and has been, we're now on, this is year 2 of the electronic 50-50, where, even in a game, you're $200,000-$300,000 for a regular season hockey game. Never mind, when they first went online during lockdown, where the, $30 million 50-50 ticket. It's crazy. And only in Alberta.
Only in Alberta. Well, you said we were off for a couple of weeks there over the holidays, but the headlines didn't stop, Dan. And it took a little while to work our way through all of the headlines that had been sitting there waiting for us to talk about them. And on the podcast today, we've got a story about Shopify came out with, I believe this was their first list ever, leading trends for 2021. So looking forward to that. Also a story on 3 ways that small business retail can survive and thrive. Just what we were talking about here, Dan, with technology. And if anything, to give you a good chuckle, just hearing this story, the reasons that they believe Jeff Bezos and Amazon will go bankrupt or could go bankrupt. And I think of, well, let's just reverse engineer what the points are that they think they'll do it because of. And for a retailer, you take that and run with it. And private labeling. I know we've talked about that before. Love the topic, and another good story on that front. So without further ado, our first story, Dan, this one came from, what's it called? Chainstorage.com. Shopify, the 5 leading retail trends for 2021. Story talks about that they took, obviously they have the great benefit of analyzing data from more than 1 million global retailers, and pretty awesome to see them sharing this. So what were your thoughts here, Dan?
Rob, this was a well-pointed article from Shopify, and it really spoke about these 5 what I'm going to call trends or insights into what they've seen in the last 12 months in consumer data to predict what's going to change going forward. Now, it's heavily weighted in the US. And probably of these 5 things, 4 of them make sense to us. And we're going to see, I'm going to say, we're going to see a lot of this in 2021 in retail. The first thing was that young consumers are going to change the business landscape. As e-commerce charges forward, we're going to see more and more young consumers being part of our driver in business. We spent a long time, hammering down on the millennials, in 18 months ago, and we're going to keep doing this. We're going to keep picking on these young kids. But here they are now starting to consume a larger market share or a larger percentage of our market share. And technology is why we're seeing that happen. And younger people are more apt to spend money with a retailer that is aligned with their values than a more mature audience is.
We definitely have seen that in the past where, like you say, that younger consumer just so value driven and,
right.
and putting the onus on you to really share your values, because in turn, it'll help you find more customers.
Yeah. Exactly. Number 2 on their list was physical retail will transform as we know it, giving local businesses some new advantages. So what do they really mean by, physical stores are going to transform? Well, the Shopify analysis indicated that, the omni-channel feature or omni-experiential retail that was adopted in 2020 will revitalize physical stores and allow them to take better advantage of proximity to local consumers. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this and the power of local search optimization. And we'll sort of explain that in another segment. But this is really where they feel like we're going to see an increase in support for local because of the ability to bring someone close by into my physical store. Number 3 on Shopify's list was consumers want to shop independent. And the numbers were a bit staggering. It was, I think, 50% of the surveys, said that we look for an independently owned business to support, including, entrepreneurship or buying unique products or experiencing good customer service. And 6 out of 10 want to shop for brands at a store for the first time, not online. 57% of the consumer wants to walk into your store before ever buying something online. And Shopify, is perhaps not the greatest advocate for walk into my store. But they're transforming. I mean, even their efforts in development and point of sale, they recognize that they've got to have, a bi-level presentation, an omni-level presentation for their consumer. And they're saying 6 out of 10 are going to shop in your store. Number 4, was that more consumers are going to vote with their wallets. And according to Shopify, I think the number was 53% prefer green or sustainable products, and 49% responded positively, the retailers that make a donation to a cause with each purchase. We've talked about cause marketing in the past, and there is nothing more powerful than cause marketing. Nothing moves that needle. We talked about this with the 50-50. You justify buying 50-50 tickets, maybe more than you should, well, because it goes to charity and I get a chance to get something out of it. Right. It's kind of a win-win. Well, isn't that what cause marketing is for us? It's a win-win. I get to walk into a store, I get to buy a new t-shirt, and hey, every t-shirt sold goes towards planting a new tree. I'm talking about 10 Tree. As a manufacturer, that was their whole presentation. This was cause marketing. Every t-shirt you bought from them planted another tree. Well, this is about the do-good. This is about a retailer saying, hey, wait a minute. If I find something I'm passionate about, let's get my audience behind me and support that cause as well and sell some product. And then number 5, I do not believe is going to be a big deal in Canada, but it absolutely is taken off in the US. This is modern financial solutions will disrupt retail and consumer banking, finance, and lending. Buy now, pay later has grown in popularity with tons of retailers offering these flexible digital payments. And I think it increased by about 60% from the time the pandemic started. 60% growth in deferred retail spend.
And is a lot of that's like across the spectrum of pricing too. Like it's not just big products anymore. It's down to the dress.
You buy a dress and buy now, pay later. And the bad thing, I shouldn't say the bad thing. The challenge in the US, it was millennial fathers that are the most frequent users of buy now, pay later.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so for those guys, it was more geared towards higher transaction limits, like electronics, higher priced items.
Yeah.
But buy now, pay later, 18 to 34-year-olds, men, we're spending more using buy now, pay later options than anyone else, which I find crazy.
It's an interesting dynamic. Yeah,
it is interesting, and I don't believe that we're going to see it.
It's two credit cards,
as much
one on top of the other.
Right. I mean, this is the old kiting money. I mean, this is pay my credit card bill with my other credit card, which I paid with my other credit card. I mean, I think I lived for 7 or 8 months without ever spending a nickel, just using credit card money. I mean, when balance transfers first came out, Rob, oh my God, it was like printing money.
Just rippled its way. That's how every entrepreneur starts their business. Right?
Okay. All right. In all transparency, I still have one credit card that I only use for cash flow. It's got a $50,000 limit on it. And whenever I need cash, whenever we need something, I call them and say, hey, I need to do a balance transfer. What's the best deal I can get on it? And usually it's, like 1% transfer fee, no interest for 9 months. And that's what I use. It's a credit card.
Hey, you're playing within the rules. Playing within the rules.
Within the rules.
Okay, well, let's head to this next story. It comes from Forbes.com. Really like this, focusing on 3 ways small business retail can survive and thrive with technology. The last story, I think it was close to 60%. This one shares another stat saying 76% of Amazon Prime members would go out of their way to make purchases at a small independent local retailer, even if they had to spend more. So here they are. They're actually talking to the people who are spending money on the big A, who are saying, you just have to connect with me, the values, all of that. So when you see this story, Dan, what jumps in your mind?
Well, certainly I recognize that they said 76% of Amazon Prime members would rather go out of their way to make a retail purchase. But it also said, this flies in the face of conventional wisdom, and it's not a trend that looks to be going away. It's part of a growing movement towards social awareness. I think it was a MasterCard survey found that 75% of shoppers plan to patronize local businesses that align with their values going forward. Here we go again, repeating ourselves. This is about aligning, your purchase, the consumer purchase, with the retailer's values. And this article, Rob, highlighted 3 digital, what I'm going to call advantages. Yeah. 3 digital advantages for moving forward in 2021. And each one of them is critical. We talked about digital ad geofencing. So geofencing is this idea that I can draw a line around an area, around a geographical area. And as someone passes across that fence line, when their location services are searching, I capture them. And now I can send ads directly to that person that crossed my fence. Now here I'm telling a marketing guy how this shit works, but you correct me if I say something stupid, please.
No, it's like I say, sometimes.
Right, but this is, we'd go to trade shows and we would draw a fence around the building where we were at a trade show. Yeah. And then we would capture and serve ads to those people that crossed that fence for 30 days after. And that was part of us capturing that audience and being able to serve ads to them. And it not terribly expensive. And in today's, modern retail world, we're gonna figure out how to spend more money, digitizing our marketing than any other expense. The second thing that they did or talk about was data-driven marketing personalization, personalizing ads to fit the data that's consumed when people are out there, I'm going to use that word again, consuming information.
Yeah.
And this really speaks to, this is sort of the second, what they believe requirement in 2021 is you've got to make your ads personal. No more of the, I don't want to say no more, less of the branding and item driven ads and more of the Dan Holman ad. This ad speaks directly to me. It's because, we're watching what I consume online. You see it today. You talk about going to Hawaii and all of a sudden WestJet's sending you ads or, here's a $500 travel credit to come to Hawaii.
You get bombarded for the next
maybe a little early to start making travel jokes, but but this is what's happening as we consume data, as we search things on our phone, as we're consuming, we're starting to build personal ads to send out to someone. And the third thing that they talked about was local programmatic advertising. Programmatic advertising. Programming ads for your local audience and using, there's somebody here in St. Albert. It's called Shop St. Albert. Brian has done a really decent job of curating this shop local strategy and saying, hey, we've got to create a local search engine optimization strategy for you. And this is where this spoke about, we talked about that in the first article. People want to spend in their local community. The challenge is they don't always know where to get what they want. And if they go and search in Google or Bing or Yahoo or whatever you use to search, the first thing that's going to come up all the time is Amazon. And your job is to move your store to the top of that list by saying, hey, I am next door to you. I'm in the same neighborhood as you. I'm in the same city as you. And for us, taking advantage of this as a retailer, we've got to come up with ways to deliver on the convenience. You want to compete with Amazon, be convenient like Amazon, not price competitive. People will pay more to support local. We've already identified that. It's been, study after study after study has said people will pay more to shop local. They just have to know where to get it. And if you want to buy something, you start with this. Where do I find? It's coming up on Amazon because they pay to do that.
Yep.
You need to do the same thing. You've got to improve your local search engine, your local search performance.
Yeah, there's so many tentacles to that one. Like
I know.
From the programmatic, the push, pushing in front of the right audience. The day used to be where you just buy one ad and the old rotating banner, it just stayed on that one site.
Yeah.
And the programmatic brought this ability to, I'm going to follow the consumer. They go from a hockey site to a barbecue site to a camping site, and the programmatic knows that this is still the same person. We're going to still show the same ad. We're going to follow them along. Yep. On the, to your point of the Amazon, I think of that, Dan, too. We've chatted about, like, this is your Skip the Dishes, your Uber. It's whoever gets to them first. They're looking for I'm going to get in front of them first. And remembering that there's a huge organic component to this, but being mindful that if you Google anything, I believe it's the first 7 positions are paid.
Paid.
Right, the first 7 results that you're seeing are paid, and there lies that. And to your point, Amazon's typically, doesn't matter what you're searching for, that's one of the top positions. So it's finding that balance and knowing that you got to play. It's part of playing the game, and but the tools are there. And yeah, there's some days I wish there were less tools, but there's a lot to go through.
And Rob, the general audience has no idea what you just said. They have no idea that the first 7 results are paid results, that somebody's paying to get in front of you. You have no idea about that. But this is an FYI for retailers. Listen, if you're going to be in this digital marketing space, you need to educate yourself. You need to know how things perform. And maybe that's something we need to look at. We need to build an FYI on digital marketing. Here's the top 10 things you need to know before you invest, $2,500 in search engine optimization.
100%. Dan, like there's definitely some low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Of you just make sure you check these boxes off, because unfortunately you're dead in the water if you don't do these low hanging fruit activities that ensure that you're in that first part of the discovery, and you've talked lots about that the phases of the buying purchase, that discovery, and you got to be in there to get discovered, to even get to the next opportunity of the price and color and size and all that. So,
and I think that there are good partners out there for our retailers that are doing things for the right reasons, that are really trying to support retail. I talk about Brian from Shop St. Albert, Crystal at Crystal Media, Crystal Volkaitis. I mean, she does a fabulous job of that. I mean, here I'm an advocate to go and pay a professional. Hell, I'm staring at one today. I mean, there's value in bringing that expertise into your organization. And I will fight to the death, for people that say they can't afford it. You can't afford not to do this. You need to have somebody in your corner that allows you to elevate to your unique ability. And that's probably not marketing.
Yep. Right on. Well, I've joked with many people. I say, picture the worst employee in the entire country. Have you got that picture of that person in your mind? Okay. We cost less than that person to be part of your team. And there's many great folks out there like that. Okay, folks, just a reminder that this podcast is brought to you by Canadian Retail Solutions. Speaking of help, go see them. If you need help to find your cutting edge retail solution today, visit retailbycrs.com. From the latest point of sale software to merchandise intelligence, open to buy plans, and more, they are here to help. Okay, here's our next story. It comes from entrepreneur.com, gives us the giggles because it talks about Amazon going bankrupt. Here's the richest guy in the world, and hits on that point again. Here we are, Dan. People don't buy the products, people don't just buy because they want the products as quickly as possible. They want the full shopping experience, and they see this as one of the Achilles of the Amazon experience. So what'd you think when you read this?
Listen, nobody likes a good headline better than I do. And, I probably wouldn't have paid a lot of attention until I saw, who the author was. And Doug Stevens is he's the founder of Retail Profit. Doug Stevens, really a super intelligent retail mind. And he really kind of broke down, where the online e-commerce giant was going to fail in the next decade, and talks about why, and sort of cited examples of how Walmart, failed, believe it or not, in the last decade. Walmart for a long time was the number one retailer in the world. And part of the challenge, with Amazon today, and this is sort of where, Doug feels like Amazon's going to follow in Walmart's footsteps. One of the reasons for, the potential bankruptcy of the online, trading platform will be, that it follows the same patterns as Walmart did. And in the first, 40 years, I think between 1960 and 2000, Walmart led retail businesses, beat out dozens of competitors, large and small. By 2010, Walmart had opened, 4,400 stores, of which more than 3,000 opened, in that decade from 1990 to 2000. And it's crazy, when they started to dive in sales, and I think it was 2015, they could not keep up with the online, prowess that was in front of them, or that was happening in front of them. And as they started to suffer, in that world, they fell further and further down the list. Now, Doug goes on to talk about in this article about, how the driver at Amazon is Jeff. He is the reason. He's at the helm. And I mean, I'm going to say this. Would Apple be where it is today without the hardline leadership that it got, from its founder?
Yeah.
If Steve Jobs was not, part of that driving engine, would Apple be where it is today? Would Microsoft be where it is today without that leadership? Is Amazon going to stay where it is, when Jeff's no longer at the helm? Perhaps not. And this speaks to every retailer.
Right.
Is your retail store, are you really building a sustainable business, or is it solely dependent on you? Are you assembling the right team? Are you assembling the team members, the employees that share your core values? And this speaks again about that team that you're surrounding with. And Doug goes on to talk about, is Amazon going to be the same when Jeff's not at the helm? And it's a great question. Are they? The biggest challenge that Amazon has today and will always have, there's zero personalization, zero customer service. Amazon preaches this really great, return rate. If you're in retail, if you're in, any level of commerce, you're always wondering, what's the return rate? What's the return rate? I mean, Zappos, they obliterated the shoe market until they obliterated themselves because the return rate was so high. Well, Amazon preaches that they have a 10% return rate. Well, that's pretty good considering, only 40% of what they do actually comes from Amazon. They don't take returns on third-party products.
Right.
So they don't record those returns, And this is the challenge that for us as an independent retailer, we can deliver something that Amazon can't. Me. The 100%. Service, the love that I have for you. It's not data-driven. It's human-driven.
And there's your superpower, right? And they say it's their Achilles, and that's your superpower as an independent retailer. No, that was a big takeaway for me. But
and listen, Amazon isn't going bankrupt in this next decade. I don't believe that. But if the prophet says it, let's pay a little bit of attention.
Right on. Okay, well, you and I spent a little time talking about some things that we felt you could really focus on for 2021. You put a great list together, Dan, the 20 for 21 list. If you haven't yet, folks, we'll have it in the newsletter. So head to retailbycrs.com. There's a link on the website there, and your opportunity to listen to the full podcast. But maybe, Dan, just hit on a couple points that were in there for those who may have not heard it yet, and give them a taste of what they can expect.
All right. So the 20 for 21 list that we compiled, we pulled together these, 20 hit list items, 20 things that you really need to take, under your wing for 21 to survive. Yes. But more importantly than survive, it's to thrive. And the number one hit list item was planning.
Yeah.
And it was, that you need to have, merchandise planning and inventory forecasting as part of your business, no matter how big or small. I started working with a new client yesterday. She's a gift store, $210,000 a year in revenue, small store, but we've got her on a plan. And that plan, is going to see exponential growth, and it's going to drive her business forward. And so no business is too small for planning. And this is the challenge that we have. In retail today, adaptation is everything, and inventory planning is a key to our success. Sales are unpredictable during crisis, but a good plan followed up with a solid on-demand reporting is the only way to make good decisions, timely decisions, based on facts, not on fear. Yeah. Too many of us are running around, allowing fear to dictate our action instead of motivate our action. Instead of inspiring us, it's suppressing us. And retail planning is critically important. We've got to be able to stay lean. We got to carry the right inventory, in the right amount at the right time. Yep. We've got to leverage the plan to calculate growth, to push growth in categories in the store where it's possible, where the potential is there. We've got to focus on cash flow. Nothing is more important than focusing on cash. And in retail, cash comes from one place only. It comes from turning inventory over. And you've got to turn inventory over in the right categories. If you've got an idle category, planning is going to tell us what to do with that category. We're going to strategically plan either growth or demise of that category and build up in another one and focus our cash dollars in the category that it needs to be in. Cash is the lifeblood of your business, and building, an inventory plan that is cash flow focused is critical. I'm going to go on for an hour on the power of planning, but this is how we invest in our future. Yeah. And Rob, I said this before, you can't afford not to do this. I don't care what you can or what cash you have today or don't have today. It doesn't matter to me. What matters is that we can have a clear, concise look at your inventory and give good direction how to convert that inventory back into cash. And cash is what makes your world go around.
Yeah. Well, it's cool hearing too that a small little store like that, that, hey, we're making this plan and mark my words, we're doing this so that you are not going to be a $210,000 a year store down the road. And
I have a client today, and I'm going to send him a note. Actually, I have a meeting with him after this podcast. But when we started together, we were just north of 200 grand in sales. And today we're north of 2 million.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's 10x growth. And it comes not just on the back of the plan, but the plan has been a contributing factor to success, to growth. It's like, here's the opportunity. Here's where we can take this category. Let's go get it. Let's go get it. And I said this to someone yesterday. We're working through her plan. And she's like, well, I'd really like to buy more. And I'm like, ignore the plan. You're going to market. Let's take this. Let's treat this class as an aspirational class. Let's not look at organic growth. Let's look at aspirational growth. Let's go and buy something, take some calculated risk in this category. Don't let the plan suppress your buying. Allow it to propel your buying. And this is what the plan does. And it says, hey, if this is where you're going to end up on March 31st, here are the actions that we need to take to convert back to cash. And as we marry every other avenue or every other piece of the business together, we convert inventory to cash. You have to have good marketing. You have to have great salespeople. You've got to have good operational process. You've got to have good control over your cash. But this inventory is the foundation of every retail business. You're the baker, man. If you don't have bread, you're bankrupt.
Yep. Geez, Dan, we're trying to get people to go see this list, but you're giving them all the good stuff right here.
All right, so that was the one. Second one I'm going to share with, I think, was number 12 on our list, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. And number 12 was about scorecarding, retail scorecarding. And here's the deal. I'm gonna be straight on this. 2021 is not the year to measure yourself on year-over-year growth. 2021 is not the year to beat yourself up on sales volume. 2021 is the year to sharpen everything that goes into sales volume. It's the year that we really want to see incremental improvement in every avenue. And that comes from us taking good measurement, having a weekly scorecard, the 5 to 15 numbers that give you a pulse on the business and that allow you to celebrate progress, not feel defeated, by not doing $1 million in sales. I don't care if you want to be $1 million retailer and you only do 800. It doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is that whether you're at $1 million or 800, you're more profitable. You're more healthy. You are more cash positive. You're cash profitable. I don't give a shit about sales volume. Yeah. And I've said it so many times. People get hung up on sales volume. It's the wrong metric. Focus on the bottom line, not the top line. Without the bottom line, the top line can't exist. And scorecarding is how we start to propel the store forward by saying, here's my numbers. Here's where I'm trending. Here are my 5 sales metrics. Here's my 5 inventory metrics. Here's my 5 accounting or financial metrics. Yep. Let's measure them every single week and watch where we're going and take action to improve just little bits at a time instead of feeling like a failure because your sales are declining. Sales are going to decline. That's part of the roller coaster that we live in. You got to go up to get down. You got to go down to get back up.
Yeah. I may have said this before. I'm a big advocate on these scorecards to ensure that there are some things on there that you can totally control. I've shared before, I think my 5x5, the Road 55, I do 5 things 5 days a week to grow my business.
Right.
The cold call, the coffee, and I can control that. Now I can't control what comes out the other end, but I always have a good sneaky suspicion that if I take care of what I can control on the front side, and that becomes a pretty good honest moment when you're scorecarding yourself and saying, like, there's no reason I can control these things. So whatever that might be, just to share that with folks, I think.
That's true, Rob. And you see, this is part of what we forget. We allow ourselves to be misguided by things we have no control over. We allow ourselves to get down in the dumps and bitch and complain and moan about all the stuff we have no control over, instead of harnessing the energy and focusing it on things we do control, like output, like client outreach, like your marketing, like your buying. Those are all things you control. Listen, Rob, if every retailer made a commitment to call 5 clients 5 days a week, 25 clients that you reached out and touched base with, what do you think the result would be?
100%. Seriously, like, if you want to take something away today, folks, take that. But also know there's 19 other amazing points on the 20 for 21 list. We'll have the full podcast this week, so you can listen to it as one. And we even put it together, right, Dan, in a printed form too. Like, you can go get the, it's not the full, it's much more colorful in the podcast version, but just a good little, a refresher list to work off for the year. A lot of good stuff to help with the plan. For sure. Just head over to retailbycrs.com or thewealthyretailer.com. The 20 for 21 list is there. The podcast, there's 2 podcasts. Actually, I think there's 3 podcasts. Part 1, part 2, and then the whole thing. And then, of course, a white paper. If you're a printed person, you want to see it in writing, it's there. You can download it. Okay. Last story. And we've had a lot of good stuff to talk about this week. This came from Gifts and is it Dees? I don't know if that's Gifts and Deck. I'm screwing up their name.com. We'll have the link in the newsletter, folks, but how private labels can help your store. It's Gifts and Decorative Accessories. This is Gifts and Decorative Accessories it's a great website for gift stores. We could have just left it at the links are going to be in the newsletter. Rob doesn't know how to say it out loud, but you just had to go there. No. But I love this. We've talked about this before, but just let's reinforce this again, Dan. Looking for ways to help your store stand out. Try adding some private labels. What are your thoughts here? Well, Rob, we've talked about this over and over again, and like good parents, we're going to continue to repeat ourselves and never question how many more times we have to say it. We're just going to keep saying it. You need to have private label brands in your store. It speaks to who you are. It allows you to present yourself, not someone else. And I think, I talked about this with a retailer. I'm going to say it was Monday. Might have been Friday. I'm lost on my. Yeah. It couldn't have been Friday. It was Monday. Yeah. It was Monday. We talked about, candles. And let's go and curate a bunch of candles. Let's create a private label line of candles. We found a company, that's going to make them for us. We created a label, and that's going to be part of our go forward strategy is this 5 cent, 3 size candles that are all private labeled. And this company, that's in this article, they're called Oakwood Outfitters in, I can't remember now where they somewhere in Texas. Yeah. Texas. They've created a ton of private labeled items. And we used to think of these things as promotional products. Right. Coffee mugs and pens and lanyards and just kind of giveaway stuff. But it really does speak to who you are when you start to curate these things. You have your own coffee, you have your own t-shirt, you have your own denim. And we talked about this before, collaborations with your vendors in private labeling something is a good success for you, is a good success path for you. And you need to have these goods.
And there are a million companies out there that are prepared to private label something for you. It then allows you to promote yourself. This is about who you are as a brand, not who your brands are or how they're represented. We talked about with a retailer. We talked about how difficult it was, to compete with the retailers, or with the vendors. Okay. They're going direct to consumer. If you're a North Face, carrier, you're competing with North Face as a retailer. If you're, a denim provider, you're competing with Levi's or Silver or, any number of these vendors that are out there trying to go direct to consumer. There's very few manufacturers or vendors out there that are not direct to consumer or have a direct to consumer pathway right now. And so you've got to come up with ways to do this. And I believe the retail store, this guy's name was David Bellow. He spoke about how they've grown their business and how, the business can stand out, and private labeling is a great way to do that. In addition to adding some comfort brand names to the store, he's adding a bunch of his own private labeled products. So, when you look at, he's got a caramel mudslide, coffee, or a toasted almond cream coffee right next to, maybe his Black Rifle coffee. And, if you're a Black Rifle fan, that's one of the top coffee brands that, independent brands that people are going after. And there's a bunch of those that are out here.
I like in the story, he talks about that it makes their business not seem like a mom and pop operation. It does. Too. Like stature wise, it elevates, right? And another great opportunity.
Yeah, Rob, one of the biggest, I think, compliments, I think I ever got, when we started advertising with the Edmonton Oilers, okay. We advertised alongside of every single national brand. And we did things in the old hockey arena that only national brands did. Our billboards, were scattered throughout the hallways, our elevator wraps up to the suite levels. We put ourselves in a place where it looked like we were a national brand and we were a mom and pop shop. But it was about us putting ourselves out there in a way that gave us, this impression of being much bigger than perhaps we really were. And a national brand, somebody that I met at a partner thing, said, "You guys are one store?" Yeah. It's like, I assumed you had 100 stores.
That's cool.
It's like that was kind of the presentation that we had, going into this thing. And that's what you need to do. It elevates your game when you have your own brands. I'm big enough to make my own apparel. I'm big enough to collaborate with, some of the biggest brands in the world. And that's really what David is doing. It really gave them the ability to demonstrate themselves as more than just a mom and pop shop.
Nice. Okay, idea on the fly here. My nickname's Lolly, so I want to start my own candle line after when it burns down, a lollipop exposes itself. How's that for an idea, Dan? The lolly candle. Good stuff.
Yeah, you know what? I think we should throw that in the deck of cards, and
whenever that idea rears its head in the future, maybe we'll look at it then. Right on. Well, Dan, happy New Year. So good to be back at it, talking about the headlines that matter most to the independent retailer. Folks, if you haven't yet, head to retailbycrs.com, sign up for the newsletter. As we said earlier, too, the 20 for 21 list is there. You'll definitely want to check that out. In addition to the stories we talked about today, there's a few more there. There's one, 4 key trends for retail entrepreneurs in 2021. Another on 5 retail marketing trends that are definitely going to outlive the pandemic. So yes, you'll want to check that out. Consumer trends bring marketing opportunities for small business owners, and a story about a young fellow launching his business right in the middle of this coronavirus pandemic, and gives you some optimism going into 21. So that was great. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, good first kickoff for the year, Rob. Looking forward to many more good headlines like today. We're going to try to stay away from the crap and keep focusing on the good stuff. We want to bring out what we can for the independent retailer out of all of these, great headlines that are curated. And guys, if you have feedback, if you want to talk about anything, if you want to talk about inventory planning, hit me up at dan@thewealthyretailer.com. Head over to the news or to the websites, sign up for our newsletter, stay connected to us. We've got tons of information to share, and we'll keep doing it every week.
Right on. Happy retailing.
Happy retailing. Yeah, right on.